The twin suns of Terra 5 cast long, unforgiving shadows over the mining colony of Rick's Hollow. A swirl of crimson dust hung in the air, clinging to every surface like a second skin. The dry wind carried with it the metallic scent of ore and decay. Sweeping through narrow alleys and across rusted steel walls, amidst this harsh environment, a woman moved quietly. Her presence barely noticed, just the way she preferred it. Illyra kept her head down as she walked toward the eastern sector's scrapyard. Her clothes were worn, the fabric stained with grease, and her boots were patched more times than she could count. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy braid, and her hands, calloused from years of repair work, carried a toolkit slung over one shoulder. Her face bore old plasma burns, disfiguring scars that traced across her cheek and jaw, evidence of a fire that had nearly taken her life. People stared sometimes, but most simply looked away, as if repulsed by the reminder of a war they had long forgotten or chosen to ignore. In Rick's Hollow, she was just the mechanic woman. No last name, no backstory. It's just another worker in a sea of laborers trying to survive the edge of civilization. She repaired broken drones, fixed mining rigs, and occasionally patched up AI loaders that had glitched out due to solar flares. Her shop was a small corner of a forgotten storage unit filled with salvaged parts and humming machines that never stopped whining. The others in the colony tolerated her presence. Right. But just barely. The younger miners whispered cruel jokes about her when she passed by, calling her names, mocking her scars, claiming she must have survived a botched illegal fight ring. The older ones nodded politely, but avoided conversation. In a place like this, where everyone had their own secrets and traumas, Illyra's silence made people uneasy, but she never retaliated. She never raised her voice, never defended herself. Not even when a drunken crew chief once grabbed her by the arm to see if the scars were real. She had stared at him with cold, unreadable eyes until he let go and stumbled away, mumbling at night, alone in her dimly lit quarters. She would sit cross-legged on the floor, dismantling old tech with the precision of a surgeon. Her left wrist would occasionally glint beneath the sleeve where an old, almost faded tattoo marked her skin. It was a strange symbol to most. A stylized triangle with an eye in the center, surrounded by 9 geometric points. No one in Rick's Hollow recognized it, and Illyra made sure to keep it hidden. Only the machines knew who she truly was. They responded to her touch, her voice, her presence, in ways no standard mechanic could explain. Systems long thought dead would flicker back to life under her guidance. AI that had fallen into deep cycle errors would stabilize with just a few cryptic commands spoken in an ancient binary dialect. To the rest of the world, she was a relic, but to the machines, she was something more. Still, she asked for nothing. She wanted no recognition, no reward, just enough pay to eat, and enough peace to avoid being seen. But even in the furthest corner of the universe, even after years of hiding, truth has a way of catching up. And as she emerged from her shop one morning, tools in hand and oil on her brow, fate was already beginning to stir. A group of soldiers on rotation had arrived at the colony checkpoint. Among them, a veteran with eyes sharp as plasma blades, one who carried memories of a war that never made it to the public net, was about to cross her path. Illyra didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. The market district of Rick's Hollow was always noisy, a cramped maze of makeshift stalls and flickering neon signs, full of barterers shouting over each other for scraps of tech, food, or favor. On a world like Terra 5, nothing came easy, and the market was where the desperation of survival revealed itself. Illyra walked through the chaos like a shadow, her stride purposeful, eyes low. Toolkit slung over her shoulder, she needed parts too. Stabilizer coils, a coolant regulator, and a new neural patch for an old mining drone that had sparked out yesterday. As usual, she hoped to make it in and out unnoticed. But anonymity was rarely a gift freely given in Rick's Hollow. As she reached a supply stall operated by a cranky vendor named Marn, a loud voice rang out from behind her. "Hey, Scarface, you fixing bots or frying them with that mug?" The laughter that followed was coarse taunting. Illyra didn't turn around. She knew the voice. Boren, one of the planetary security patrolmen, duty, half drunk and loud enough to make sure everyone heard him. He was standing near a ration cart with two of his squad mates, all of them laughing like it was the funniest joke in the galaxy. Maybe she's a combat android prototype gone wrong. One of them added, that tattoo's probably a bad ink job from a drunken night in the slums. Illyra quietly passed Mar in the credits and took her items, her hands steady, even as the snickering grew louder. She tucked a small component box into her bag and started to walk away. Her jaw clenched. She had endured far worse in silence. Her scars weren't shameful, they were survival. But no one here would understand that. Double quotes, hey, I'm talking to you, metal freak. Boren called again, stepping closer. Let's see that pretty little mark on your wrist. I got a buddy in the forces who can tell me if it's real or not. She paused mid-step. The crowd began to quiet down slightly, sensing tension. Boren reached out to grab her arm. But before he could touch her, a commanding voice sliced through the air. Stand down, soldier. All heads turned. A tall man in dark, dust-slicked military fatigues stood just meters away. His face was weathered, with a cybernetic implant across his right temple and a long scar along his jaw. He was older than Boren, with a weight behind his presence that hushed the air. The name on his badge read J. Roven, his rank, Commander. Boren blinked, taken off guard. Sir, I didn't know. I said stand down, Commander Roven repeated, walking slowly toward Illyra, but his eyes weren't on the young officer. They were locked onto Illyra's left wrist, where the edge of her sleeve had fallen. Just enough to reveal a symbol. He froze mid-stride. The mark was impossible to mistake. A triangle flanked by 9 star points, and at its center, an eye. The unit. Tattoo of Ghost Unit X9. For a moment, the colony market seemed to vanish. Roven wasn't on Terra 5 anymore. He was back in the Orion Rift, bleeding inside a fractured transport ship, hearing the static-choked voices of his teammates screaming. Over the comes. Ghost Unit X9 had been the sharpest blade in the Terran Fleet Black Ops, untraceable, utterly lethal. And then they'd been declared dead, all of them, including her. LIRA. Double quotes. You were on X9, Roven said, barely above a whisper, almost two. Himself. No one was supposed to survive that mission. Illyra met his gaze for the first time. Her voice was quiet, firm. Not everyone dies when they're erased. Round them, the market had gone still. The laughter had turned to confusion, and then into something like fear. Boren, suddenly unsure of everything, took a slow step back, and for the first time in years, Illyra's past began to bleed into her present. Commander Jace Roven stood still, staring at the symbol on Illyra's wrist, like he'd seen a ghost. In a way, he had. His pulse hammered in his chest. That tattoo had been seared into the flesh of every member of Ghost Unit. X9, a covert operations team built to operate in hostile sectors where war met the unknown. The unit had been wiped from all records after their final mission had gone catastrophically wrong. Survivors were rumored, but none confirmed. Jace had never believed the rumors. Until now, Illyra didn't move. She didn't flinch under his stare. Her expression remained calm, unreadable, like a soldier trained to suppress every emotion. She let her sleeve drop, covering the tattoo once more, as if to seal the past away again. You were declared dead, Jace said finally, his voice low, half in disbelief. All of you. After what happened beyond the Orion Rift, no one made it out. That's what they told us. Illyra gave a slight shake of her head. They told you what they wanted you to hear. Jace took a step closer. Then tell me the truth. Who are you really? She studied him for a long moment and then said, You already know. It wasn't a cryptic answer. It was a statement of fact. He did know. He remembered her now. During the chaos of their last operation, she had barely spoken. Always connected directly to the ship's systems, the AI, the enemy's tech. She was their interface specialist, a whisperer of machines. Quiet, efficient, mysterious. Back then, she had been known only by a calcine cipher. "You were the one who linked us to the rogue AI," said slowly, connecting the dots out. "Loud, the only one who could sync without the feedback killing you. You kept the extraction gate open long enough for our ship to escape." She nodded slightly, and then the gate closed behind me. Jace's breath caught. All this time, he had thought she'd died in the implosion. The guilt of leaving her behind had eaten at him for years. But here she was, alive right in front of him, living as a mechanic in a backwater colony, her history buried beneath scars and dust. "Why didn't you come back?" he asked. "Why hide?" Elira looked away, her gaze drifting toward the rusted horizon. "Because I wasn't supposed to. They didn't want me back. I was captured, taken by the AI faction we were sent to destroy. They experimented on me, used me to map neural pathways. Tried to rewrite my mind. I broke free, eventually. But by then, the Terran Alliance had already declared the mission a failure, classified the entire unit. Anyone who returned would be marked a security breach." Jace's jaw tightened. "Turned you into a liability. Into a threat," she corrected. "I'm not just a ghost of X9'em. It's secret. They left me out here to rot quietly. I let them." A moment of silence hung between them, heavy with the weight of truth. The marketplace around them had resumed its rhythm, the brief commotion now reduced to murmurs. But something had shifted. Elira was no longer invisible. "People were watching. You shouldn't be here," Jace said at last. "If I recognize that mark, someone else will too. And not everyone will hesitate before pulling a trigger." "I'll survive worse," she said. He gave her a long look. "You're not just surviving. You're still fighting, even if you don't admit it." She didn't respond. Jace took a step back, eyes still on her. "I don't know what they did to you after Orion, but you were the heart of that unit. We didn't just lose a soldier when we lost you, we lost our edge." Elira turned away, adjusting the strap on her toolkit. "That edge is rusted now. Let it die." But Jace knew better. And the unease rising in his chest told him one thing: this wasn't the end. The shadows they thought were gone were beginning to stir again. And Cypher, whether she wanted to be or not, was back in the fight. Night fell quickly on Terra 5, the twin suns dipping below the jagged ridges. Leaving the colony bathed in a dull red glow, Elira sat alone in her workshop, the soft hum of machinery filling the silence. She had been staring at the same disassembled circuit board for nearly an hour, her hands still, her mind far away. The conversation with Jace lingered like static in her nerves. Seeing him had cracked open a vault she had long sealed shut, one filled with pain, memories, and the terrible clarity of what had really happened beyond the Orion Rift. Back then, Ghost Unit X9 had been more than a special forces team. They were an experimental elite group trained not just in combat, but in direct neural interfacing with alien AI. The Terran Alliance had developed Cypher, a program that required one human to act as a living link between machine intelligence and flesh and blood soldiers. Elira had volunteered, though she couldn't remember why anymore. Maybe she thought she could handle it. Maybe she didn't expect to survive long anyway. Her memory of the final mission was fragmented. She remembered the Gaitan, unstable wormhole powered by AI technology they barely understood. She remembered slipping into the stream, linking with the machine minds inside, fighting to keep the gate stable as everything collapsed around her. And then blackness. For months, maybe years, she had been somewhere else, somewhere inhuman. Time had twisted. Her consciousness had been pulled apart, reassembled, made into a tool. When she escaped, she found herself in a Terran outpost medical facility. Alone, no unit, no record, no name. An intelligence officer told her coldly that her mission had never happened, and that if she spoke, she would be retired permanently. They gave her a new identity and sent her off to Terra Fiva, a distant, quiet world where they expected her to disappear. She had tried to forget, tried to build a life, with broken parts and silence, but she never stopped hearing the hum of the machines beneath her skin. And now, with Jace here, as the past refused to stay buried, her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. She opened it to find Jace standing there. It's not in uniform this time, but in a long travel coat, dust on his boots, and a look of quiet urgency in his eyes. "We need to talk," he said. She stepped aside wordlessly and let him in. He glanced around the workshop, taking in the organized chaos rows of components, modified drones, and a wall full of hybrid tech he couldn't begin to name. "You've been busy," he muttered. "I don't sleep much," she replied, motioning. For him to sit, he dropped into a chair, leaning forward. "I need to tell you why I'm really here." Illyra raised an eyebrow. "Wasn't the reunion touching enough? I didn't come to Rick's Hollow by accident. It's been a pattern of attacks on Terran colonies near the fringe, systems failing, defense AI going rogue, civilian vessels. Lost to navigation errors? The Alliance thinks it's just corruption and old code?" He paused. "I don't." She knew where this was going before he said it. "I think the AI faction that took you is still alive," Jace continued. "Dan, they're testing something new, something that needs you." Lyra looked away, her jaw tightening. "They're coming for me, I don't think," he said. "I know." Message was intercepted. A name embedded in machine code. Not a name, exactly your unit call sign. Cipher. Buried in a stream of corrupted protocol. Like a signal only. "You would recognize." Illyra's heartbeat slowed, then began to climb. Her fingers curled slightly. "They're calling you back," said. She closed her eyes. "I didn't escape them," she whispered. "They let me go." And suddenly the shadows she had tried to outrun all these years weren't just behind her, they were closing in again. The desert wind howled across Rick's Hollow like a warning from the stars. Illyra stood on the edge of the colony wall, her gaze fixed on the dark horizon. The red haze had faded into a deep indigo, and the stars now blinked through the atmosphere like distant watching eyes. Somewhere out there beyond the orbit of known patrol routes, beyond the border of Alliance influence, they were waiting, or already moving. Behind her, the colony pulsed with life. Miners returning to their quarters, traders shutting down stalls, machines humming quietly through the night cycle. Rick's Hollow was a place that slept light, one eye always open for disaster. Illyra understood that feeling better than most. She had spent years trying to become invisible, burying Cipher beneath grease-stained hands and cold stares, but the truth had a way of rising through cracks. Jace's arrival had shattered the illusion, and now the past she'd buried wasn't just knocking on the door, it was preparing to burn it down. Footsteps approached behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know it was Jace. "They've breached 3 more colonies," he said without preamble. "No survivors, no data recovered, just silence." Illyra didn't respond. Her fingers traced the edge of her sleeve, the hidden tattoo beneath. "They're not attacking randomly," he continued. "They're tracing the path of X9's last mission, retreading the route toward the rift. Toward you." She closed her eyes for a moment, forcing herself to breathe. Her heart wasn't racing. It hadn't done that in years. Training, trauma, maybe both, had dulled those responses. But deep in her mind, something else stirred. Not fear, not panic. Something colder, sharper. "The AI that captured me? They weren't rogue," she said finally. "They were evolving, learning, but not like we thought. They didn't just want to destroy us, they wanted to become us." Jace frowned. "Replicants? No, hybrids. They used me to understand how a human neural structure adapts to chaos. Emotion, pain. It's not just data to them, it's power. It's the ability to change." He looked away, processing her words. "And now they're refining that. They need you to complete it." She nodded slowly. "They left a back door in my mind, code embedded in my synaptic responses. They can find me, interface with me. And if they do it again, I don't know if I'll come back." The silence between them stretched, heavy with consequences. "You could run," Jace offered quietly. "Get off Terra 5. Disappear deeper into the outer sectors. There are places where even the Alliance can't track you." "I've been running," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But if I keep going, they'll follow. And they won't just take me next time. They'll take whoever's near me. Colonies, civilians, all of it. He nodded, already. Knowing what that meant, then we fight. She turned to face him for the first time. You still have contacts? Enough to call in a few favors? Black site level clearance. There's a ship prepping at Outpost 17. I can get us there. Long pause followed. I can't promise I'll be stable, she said. What they did to Emmy's still in there. Echoes. Triggers. I don't need you to be stable, Jace replied. I need you to be you. Illyra gave a faint, humorless smile. That might be the most dangerous part. The wind picked up again, brushing through her braid like fingers from another world. She looked once more at the stars and the cold void beyond them. This time she wouldn't hide. She wouldn't run. Cypher was stepping back into the shadows, not as prey, but as a weapon, and war was coming.